Well, it's my favorite weekend of the year. I don't know if that's true for you, but 1 extra hour is awesome, huh? Yeah, wow. I read on Facebook this morning that some people say that it's good to spend this extra hour with extra reflection and meditation. How many of you spent an extra hour in meditation today? Oh, a couple of you did. That's so good. Me, I just slept an extra hour, but... So yeah, I love it when daylight savings time changes. Gosh, folks, we are here today to wrap up our series called Love for No Reason. We've been journeying with Marcy Scheimoff throughout this book, and if you're here for your first time today, I'm so glad that you are here, because we'll be taking an opportunity to sort of remember the journey that we have been on as we have really delved deeply into how you and I can be love for no reason in our world. And you might remember that our journey began with a story about a man who was willing to risk his life back in Nazi Germany to save the life of a Jewish woman he did not know. Remember, he stood and spoke up in a train that particular day and managed to save her life so that the authorities would not arrest her. And it was that provoked Marcy Scheimoff to ask this question: what is it that inspires someone to extend himself and risk his life for someone he does not know? And she went on to say, what if you could live in that state of unconditional love all the time? Imagine loving people not because they feel your needs or because their opinions match your own, but because you're connected to a state of pure love within yourself. I'm not talking about a Hollywood or a Hallmark kind of love, she says, but about love as a state of being, the kind of love that is limitless and doesn't ask to be returned. And then she goes on to say, this inner state of love, one that doesn't depend on anything outside us, another person, situation, or romantic partner, is what I call love for no reason. So we've been exploring and journeying through what it means to live in a place of love for no reason. And I want to be clear that we can't make love for no reason happen. What we can do, though, is increase our awareness of it, our willingness and our receptivity to it. Because God is love for no reason. God is the grace of love that's with us, in us, around us all the time. We can't make that happen. We can't even magnify that. What we can do, though, is become more aware of it. And then we can act from that place. So in our journey, we've talked, I just want you to remember some of the great peak moments that we've had in this time together. Do you remember how early on in our journey we talked about the importance of loving yourself? That you got to start there, that loving yourself is absolutely critical before you can love others. And we even said that most of us have an inner critic of some sort that we need to give voice to, our inner mean girl, inner mean guy. And if you were at the first service, they called it Bubba. She said, give it a name. At this service, I forgot what we called it at this service. The nagging gnat, yeah, we call it at this service. So she says, give it a name. But the bottom line is learn to love yourself, even the unlovable parts of you, what you consider to be the unlovable parts of you. And then we spent time last week with the beautiful loving kindness meditation that we speak for ourselves and for others. May I be well. May I be healthy. May I be free of suffering. May I be at peace. And we said, then speak that for others as well, the people that you love as well as the people who are difficult to love, and ultimately speak it for the world. You remember that we talked about caring for yourself as if you were as valuable as $1 million racehorse, taking care of your body and nourishing and nurturing yourself. And then there was that moment, several of you gasped when I said, okay, if we're really going to practice this, I want to invite you to get photographs of the political candidates, those that you agree with and those that you don't, and place them on your altar. And pray for them and surround them in love and light. And some of you thought I was crazy. But you did it, some of you. And then we talked about the importance of grounding ourselves, right? And taking off our shoes And there was that day I gave a very long Sunday lesson because I had my shoes off and I just slowed down, right? But grounding ourselves, knowing that there are energy centers even in the base of the sole of your feet. Yeah. So we've been traveling very far together, we have. You may remember the week that Reverend Eileen spoke and talked about the importance of speaking from your truth, speaking your truth. And she shared that deeply personal story about how she spoke her truth. It's a journey. It's a journey and it doesn't end. The journey doesn't stop today, right? And what Marcy Shimoff has done is she's reminded us to be grateful and to give and to be open to receiving and to forgive. What she's done is she's given us a roadmap, if you will, for the journey, but the journey never stops. And she's chosen to use the 7 chakras, or the 7 energy centers of the body, as a framework for us, each energy center representing a certain opening within us, that if we open that center, then we'll really be more open to receiving and giving love. And so we're now to the 7th chakra, which is right at the top of the head, sometimes called the crown chakra. You can touch it if you want to. Just touch the top of your head for a moment. They say there's an energy field here that's both at the top and just above the top of the head. And that this is the doorway to oneness. This is the place where as this chakra is open, then your mind is expanded and open to knowing the oneness with God and oneness with all creation. Now, it won't surprise you to know that the key to opening this particular chakra, this particular energy center, is your spiritual practice, your meditation, your prayer time, your daily spiritual practice. And if you are new with us here today, I just want you to know that as you hang around here, we're going to talk a lot about spiritual practice, meditation, and prayer. It is one of our foundational teachings, and we do speak about it a lot, because it's that important. And if you've been with us for a while, what I want to invite you into is a space of knowing every time we speak about prayer or meditation or journaling or whatever your spiritual practice might be, every time we speak about that, just consider that like a mindfulness bell that rings for you. And you say, let me be mindful of my practice. How might I enrich it? Or maybe it's time for me to return to that particular invocation I used to use 2 years ago. Or maybe it's time for me to pick up a particular book again, bring that into my spiritual practice. But the point is that your spiritual practice is so important. And starting in the morning, let your morning moments be for God in you. Let your morning moments be in this place of divine love. And then you carry that with you through the day. So that's really the key to activating this chakra, this crown chakra. She also says that surrendering to grace is an important part of this. Now, grace, we know, is that stream of God's love that is there no matter what. That stream of God's love that flows. You can't earn it. You can't deserve it. You can't make it. It just is. And so what Marcy Shimoff says is to just surrender and let go to the grace. Now, part of what this involves is letting go of attachment to specific material things. And Jesus is reported to have spoken a lot about attachment and detachment. You'll remember that when the rich man came to Jesus and asked him, Master, what might I do to inherit the kingdom of heaven? And Jesus told him to sell all his possessions and follow Jesus. Now, this was not intended as an extolation or an extolling of the virtues of poverty or a putting down of the sins of financial prosperity. No, what Jesus was saying was, don't be attached to anything but God. Don't be attached to anything but the Christ in you. So let go of your attachment to the outer, to expecting things and requiring them to be a certain way, to expecting and requiring people to be a certain way. Let go of that attachment and make your devotion first to the Christ, God in you. So that's letting go of attachment, right? And Jesus spoke about that several times. Remember that metaphor about it's easier for a rich man it's easier for, how does it go? Than for a rich man to get through the eye of the needle, right? What? Oh, no. Okay. I got it right here. Okay, there's a camel, and there's a rich man, and there's a needle. Okay, here we go. I got it now. It's underlined right here. And it says it's easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into the kingdom of heaven. Jesus liked to speak in these metaphors, you see. But the image is that to experience the kingdom of heaven, you've got to let go. You've got to let go of whatever you're attached to. Keep your camel, but let go of everything else. The biblical scholar that she is has spoken. All right, so you're going to remember that this year, our theme for 2012, the whole theme for the whole year is Discover the Power Within You. Discover the power within you. And that's why we selected this series, because love is the greatest power in the universe, and love dwells in you. All you have to do is awaken to it, right? So let's speak our affirmation together today. Every week we've had a special affirmative prayer that goes along with our theme of the day. Let's speak our affirmation. And by the way, we have these beautiful affirmation cards in the lobby. We have one for every week. Today would be a good chance to pick up any that you may have missed, because they'll be going away very shortly. It's also, of course, in your bulletin. Let's speak this together. I am a pure channel of divine love that blesses and multiplies the good in the world. Would you speak that with me again, please? And this time, really think about the words and own them. I am a pure channel of divine love that blesses and multiplies the good of the world. A channel of love. That's what you are. You are a channel of love. A perfect divine channel of love. Marcy Shimoff also has a tool that I want you to be aware of, and it's free. It's on the website, thelovebook.com. Thelovebook.com. On that website is a free download of a workbook that has every exercise or meditative experience that she documents in her book. It's all in one place. Now, if you have the book, you've got them all, but they're spread out throughout. She's created this workbook that is downloadable for free at her website called thelovebook.com. And just go to the free gift section. There's other things that are free there too. Don't you love free things? So when we first started our series, I invited you to establish your intention. What's your intention for this series? And many of you had many ideas of your intention. And one of you came up to me and said that your intention was to become a love luminary. Now remember that to create the book, Marcy Shimoff interviewed 150 love luminaries, people who demonstrate and embody unconditional love. And so one of you, and I suspect many of you thought it, but the one of you came up and said, you want to be a love luminary. Now, how are you going to be a love luminary? What do you have to do to be a love luminary? You just set the intention. You get it that love is who you are. Love is who you are. And the greatest purpose you can serve on this planet is to express that love. And when you claim that purpose, then you begin to become a love luminary. You're reflecting love for others. You're shining it. You're giving it to others so that they too can learn to know more love. As you become the presence of love, you inspire others to know love. You inspire others to take loving action. That's what being a love luminary is all about. And we can't help but do this. You see, we want to give. Because of this knowing of oneness that we have, we want to give. I mean, right now, my heart, and maybe yours too, is hurting for the people up in the Northeast. I can barely stand to read some of the stories of what they're having to endure. And so we want to make a difference, right? We want to make a difference. And I was, maybe you've heard of some of the beautiful stories that have come out of tragedy. As always, there are beautiful stories that come out of tragedy because the human heart wants to give. The human heart wants to make a difference. And so maybe you've heard about the hospital employees that formed a human chain going up 13 flights of stairs so that they could, one to the next, pass the fuel that was needed in the generator. I don't really know why the generator was on the 13th floor, but evidently they needed to get fuel up the 13 flights of stairs, and so that's what they did. Or maybe you've seen the image, the beautiful image of, and I've actually seen more than one, where people who had power in their homes stretched extension cords and then power strips outside so people could come up and charge their phones, their computers, their electronic devices for free. Just a way of giving what they had, right? And then I found this one particular Facebook post. A woman named Michelle says, I am looking for a generator for a friend. Anyone have one or know where we can get one? I mean, thousands of people looking for a generator, but you know, she says, I'm going to try. I'm going to put this Facebook post out there. 42 minutes later, Len responds, I have one. I'll have it there on Sunday. We want to give because we are all one. Nothing happens to one that doesn't happen to us all. Alice Walker once said, one day when I was sitting quiet, it came to me. That feeling of being part of everything, not separate at all. I knew that if I cut a tree, my arm would bleed. I knew that if I cut a tree, my arm would bleed. And so that's the part of us that's hurting now for the victims of Hurricane Sandy, right? And we want to make a difference. We want to make a difference. And by the way, I want you to know that we're going to tell you a little bit later on this morning about ways that you can make a difference, because once again, we're going to start to create those personal care kits of toothbrushes and soaps and washcloths that will be sent up to those folks. The Heart to Heart organization here has already sent 20,000 up there, and they're running out, so we're going to help replenish that supply, and we'll tell you how. Because we want to make a difference, because our arm is bleeding too. I look around at how it is that this community steps out to give, because we have to. Love's got to give. It's what it does, right? So the Renovate to Elevate folks that spent a week ago out at 3 different homes in the Kansas City area, restoring and renovating, doing what they could, painting walls and putting in a handicap bar for one family and fixing plumbing in the house of another. And then they spent time with this 79-year-old woman named Erlene, who was afraid to live in her home because she was missing a door in her garage, and her garage had been partially converted to living space. And with it open, her living space was open and exposed, and so too was her house exposed. And she also didn't have a safety screen on her other door or a safety latch on the screen so that she could open the window from her bedroom. So we sent folks out to make a difference as a part of Christmas in October. And what I was told by one of the volunteers is how much Erlene really touched our volunteers, because she was such a loving woman. She believed in the goodness of everybody, and such an independent woman. She would have done all of this herself if she could have. I mean, this woman walks 2 miles to go to the grocery store. She's got a daughter that would take her, but no, she walks the 2 miles herself because she's independent and because she needs the exercise, right? So we want to give in the world. It's what we do. It's part of our knowing of our oneness, is this desire to give, to stay connected in the world. You know, nothing that we do in a vacuum. This coming week is our election season. It's so important that we pray for our country. There's a prayer in your bulletin you can check out later on. It's also on our website. To pray for our country for wisdom and discernment, because what we do as individuals makes a difference, and what our country does makes a difference in the world. That's the way it works. When we cut one arm, we all bleed. And so it is that we are one. And that's the message of today, that we are one. And we are one in love. We are one in the spirit of love that you and I demonstrate. We're one in the spirit of love that you demonstrate when you meditate in the morning. You know, the 7 chakra meditation that we did before the lesson started is going to be on the website, and you can also purchase the CD if you want to. I wanted to lead us in a meditation that would really help you integrate all of the 7 chakras and the teachings that we've had of those energy centers throughout this particular series of ours. It's another way to activate this knowing of oneness, this one mind crown chakra of ours. And another way that you can do that is one of my practices is to call into my meditation time the people or the entities which bring love. So for instance, in my morning prayer time this morning, I called into my time Jesus, consciously, as if he were sitting there. And I called into my morning prayer time today also 2 friends of mine who really embody unconditional love. They don't know they're that special to me. One of them I only see maybe once a year. He's a minister friend of mine, but when I'm in his presence, I feel loved. So I called them in. I called in my angels. I called in entities and people and friends that embodied love. And one of the reasons I did that is that when I was doing my chakra meditation, I found my heart chakra seemed closed. It was tense. So I brought in those who I just knew embodied love. And as I did that, I was able to experience their love. You see, we are one. And when you invoke anyone's presence, you are connecting with their energy. And so there's one other person that I brought into my prayer time this morning. And you may know of her. Her name is Amma, the hugging saint. Amma was born in 1953 in a little town in India. And she's grown up with this great, big, compassionate heart. And what Amma does is she hugs people. She hugs people and blesses them all day long. Sometimes 50,000 people a day. On her birthday, 22 hours a day. People come from all over the world to experience this love that she is. It's estimated that she has hugged and blessed over 33 million people. 33 million people. Wow. And here's how it started. You see, when she was a little girl, she naturally, from a very young age, meditated for long periods of time. And then her mother was very ill when Amma was 9 years old. And Amma was sent out to the neighbors' houses to get any scraps that they might have so that they could give it to their animals. Well, when Amma left her home and began going to the neighbors' homes, she began to see poverty and sadness that she'd not seen before. And it hurt her heart. It cut her arm, if you will. And so she was so taken by the hurt in the world that she wanted to go out and make a difference. And she began to, even as a child, she began to go out and to touch people and to hug them. And this was not only frowned upon, she was punished for it, because girls, females, women were supposed to not even be seen. They were supposed to be in the background. But despite the punishments that she received from her family, she continued to do this. And now, wherever she is, people come from all over the world to experience her retreats or just to be in her presence. And so I think about that. And what I think about is that you and I, each one of us have the ability to be that for others. Oh, I know people aren't lining up to get your hug today. Not literally, but there are people who need the love with which you can embrace them. You may never touch them physically, but as you send your love out, you are embracing them. That's how you be a love luminary. It starts with morning consciousness and intention and carrying that throughout your day. And as you give, you receive. As you give, you receive. You cannot outgive God. You cannot give more love than will come back to you. Because grace, the grace of God's love, keeps flowing always. And so I want to close today with reading from what Amma had to say about unconditional love. And she says that if we penetrate deeply into all aspects and all areas of life, we will find that hidden behind everything is love. Hidden behind everything is love. We will discover that love is the force, the power, and inspiration behind every word and every action. This, she says, applies to all people, irrespective of race, caste, creed, sect, religion, or of what work people do. We are all one. You and I, the people up in the Northeast, all of our friends who will be voting this week or who have already voted, please vote. Please vote. We are one with all. And it is God's love and the grace of God's love that unites us with all creation. God bless you, all you love luminaries.